Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano, and on today's program we will chat with Quincy Ward 3 City Councilor Ian Kane all about the Mayoral Commission on Diversity, Equity and Inclusion. First though, as always, we check out the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, a few sprinkles moving into the region now. It's 74 degrees. We'll see some spotty showers, maybe even the rumble of thunder throughout the day today, with temperatures approaching 80 degrees this afternoon. Still kind of muggy. It'll all clear out this evening. Very comfortable, clear skies. Lows tonight around 60 degrees and a real winter tomorrow. Sparkling sunshine, nice and dry. Mild temperatures around 80, a little warmer on Wednesday with highs in the mid-80s, and more tropical-like here on Thursday with the warm, humid conditions. Highs Thursday in the upper 80s. We could be in the mid-90s again by Friday. But right now, 74 degrees here in Quincy with some light rain in the area. Checking news for you today, the Quincy City Council is now on summer break after wrapping up their business last Tuesday. Council President Noel DeBona explains that the council spent a lot of time reviewing the next phase of redevelopment for Quincy Center.
And then there was a few across the street from Alba on Hancock Street, 1455 and 1459, which will become public use. So they were approved last night. Kind of important to continue to do the downtown with a DIF appropriation, which is a district improvement financing fund, which will, allow the downtown to continue to move forward, which is downtown development.
The $53 million bond was approved on a 7-1 vote. Councilors also approved $15 million for a new Quincy animal shelter, $7 million for public building improvements, and $3 million for new vehicles, including some electric school buses. City Council will reconvene on September 12th. The State Department of Environmental Protection is considering whether or not to review a permit that was issued to the Algonquin Gas Company for their controversial natural gas compressor station in North Weymouth. A judge ruled that the waterways permit for that facility should be reviewed after determining that the compressor station didn't have to be built where it is. Attorney Michael Hayden, who represents opponents of the compressor station, argued that the facility should have been located in a less densely populated area.
What's fascinating about where we are now 6.5 years after the applicant's Chapter 91 Waterways license application was filed is that the focus of the last 6.5 years has been rightly upon the compressor station itself. But on the remand proceeding, as made clear by the Norfolk Superior Court's order, the focus today belongs on the hub line, because it is the hub line that is the licensed infrastructure crossing facility to which the applicant seeks to attach an ancillary facility. The focus is not the entire Atlantic Bridge project, and the focus is not the convenience or inconvenience of placing the compressor station in a particular location. The focus needs to be on the hub line itself. And as the testimony established in an abundantly clear fashion, the hub line has been operating and functioning perfectly fine since it was licensed almost 20 years ago in 2003.
An attorney for Algonquin Gas argues that the compressor station has to be where it is because it services the gas pipelines that already existed at that site. Opponents say the facility poses a public health and safety threat. The Mass DEP must issue a ruling by the end of August. Beacon Hill leaders want to meet with the Baker administration to discuss the trouble-plagued MBTA. House Speaker Ron Mariano and Senate President Karen Spilka are calling for legislative hearings after federal officials recently issued a report criticizing the T for a number of safety concerns. That report forced the T to reduce service on the Red Line and other lines due to staffing shortages. State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy says the lack of qualified MBTA workers is nothing new.
The T challenge pre-COVID has been maximum capacity, so they have very small customer growth, but rising costs of doing business. And one of the solutions back in the Walt Patrick administration was to cut staff, repurpose staff. And this was a pending situation right to the Baker administration. There was no staff expansion. There was continued attrition. And my criticism continues to be, and hopefully oversight hearing reveal, it's a very very management heavy agency. It's more management than workers.
T also recently pulled some of the new orange and red line subway cars from service again after a battery issue was discovered on one of the new orange line cars. Video also recently surfaced of a runaway red line car at the Braintree station caused by a decoupling issue. Nobody was hurt in that incident. Lawmakers say the Joint Committee on Transportation will set up meetings with the administration this summer to review MBTA operations. Well, a brand new concept in convenience stores is coming to Quincy Points. The licensing board recently approved what will be called the Neon Marketplace. It'll open up at the corner of Southern Artery and Washington Street. The board's chairman, Nicole Crispo, says the new shop will feature prepared foods, coffee, convenience items, and a gas station.
And it was a blight there for some time. The store is beautiful. It's a different concept for convenience. In this store, you can get hot meals. You can get, any kind of drink, coffee, beer, wine. It seems like they're coming up with a new concept for Quincy, and we're happy to have them.
Crispo says some residents did express concern about traffic impacts from that new store, but says the applicants have taken measures to lessen the impact of traffic, noise, and pollution on that neighborhood. Neon Marketplace will be open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. That's our check of news for you today. Coming up, we sit down with Quincy Ward 3 City Councilor Ian Kane next. Welcome back. Early last year, the Quincy City Council approved the creation of a Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The mayor decided not to fund that department, but he did appoint a special commission to look at those specific issues here in the city, and the chairman of that commission was Ward 3 City Councilor Ian Kane, still is, and he joins us today to give us a little update. Great to see you, Ian. Thanks.
Great to see you, Joe.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
you taking the time, work day time to come over and talk with us about it.
All good.
As I mentioned, this has been going on now for well over a year, right, since that first vote was taken.
Yes.
I know you weren't really in favor of the whole department idea. What about the commission idea? Did you think that was a good way to go?
Yeah, so, I mean, the story was such that there was national news that took place. There was a tragic murder that took place in the middle of the country, and residents in the city had an effect here. And I think what that situation sort of impacted or displayed was different levels of emotion and experiences that were sort of drawn out from personal experience here in the city of Quincy. And so there was a sort of period of reflection, I think, that people went through to try to understand, hey, how are we approaching race or equality or equity? There's so many terms that are kind of apportioned to this subject. And, I know that there were demonstrations that took place in the town and City Hall area. And colleagues of mine hosted a few listening sessions where they, heard perspectives from people. And I think what came from that was the proposal of the Department of Social Justice and Equity. And so I think, from the original proposal of this department, I think there was a big disconnect for me in terms of what the Department of Social Justice and Equity was going to do and what people expected it to do. So in the original definition of that role, it didn't really, let me go back. The people that were advocating for this position, my colleagues and members of the community, expressed their issues with prejudice and racism in different forms. And they, told many heartfelt stories,
yes,
which were emotional, impactful, nothing you can take away from them, right? We all have our own experiences. But I didn't think that this department was going to solve any of those problems, whether in the past or in the future. I think there was a sort of perspective that this department was going to be an independent body from the executive and or the legislature.
I see. Okay.
That would sort of be an arbiter of either conflicts or provide resolutions. And I just didn't, it wasn't outlined as such, and the department wasn't going to be that way, so I thought it was a little disingenuous to lead people to believe that that was the case. In principle, of course, I supported the department, and the mayor decided, for his own reasons, not to, and what led to the outcome of the formation of this commission. Right. So, I was happy to support the mayor in exploring, what could be, right? How
Okay.
can we take a look at how the municipality, in its role as a service body to the residents of the city, can better provide access to all residents in an equal way, shape, and form. And so that's kind of the background for me on that.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, I think, is that, what is the role of city government with this issue, and what is the role of society in this issue, right? Because
Absolutely.
they're two very different things.
Absolutely.
So the commission wants to look at how is the city itself, the city of Quincy, providing these services, right?
And that took months alone.
I bet,
We
yeah.
started having very serious conversations around what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why were we asked by the mayor to look into this? What are we actually talking about? I wanted to demagnetize the terms diversity, equity, inclusion, equality, so that we could have a real conversation, because the words have taken on meaning of their own in
Probably
many different quarters of
different to every
society.
person, right?
It's different to every person.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's sort of like it cancels to me,
Right.
because there's so many different interpretations, and either they evoke strong emotions, whether positively or negatively, in many people. So I said, let's get to brass tacks here and get to the bottom of the issue. What are we talking about here? We're talking about a city government that provides services. They take out trash, they provide sewer, fire, police, the whole thing.
Education,
Yes,
yeah,
education,
sure,
everything. So, and how can we better position, or what's going on? How are people not being served in various
Okay.
capacities?
Was the commission amenable to that concept that you put
Yeah,
forward? Okay.
there it was.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, we had some serious debates, and it's sort of, which are, I think, the conversations that we all should be having is, what are we talking about here? Because I think that most often there's sort of an assumption that people make about different terms and subject matter. But I don't necessarily agree with all the assumptions. I want to know what people actually imply, because I think that there's just so much noise and rhetoric out there generally about so many different subjects that you're sort of fundamentally, I guess, supposed to adhere to a level of understanding that not everyone might have or share with you.
Right. Yeah, based on your own personal experiences, right?
Based on your own personal experience.
Living in this city is what the commission was looking at. Ultimately, it took a while, as you mentioned, about 6 months later, actually, than it was supposed to come up with the recommendation of a officer, I guess, within the mayor's department. So
Yes.
how did that decision come about?
So we looked at other cities and towns, and we said, how do other cities and towns, I guess, liaise with different parts of the community, right? Like Quincy's an interesting circumstance or situation, changing demographics,
Yeah.
whether it's young people moving into the downtown, growing cultural populations from East Asian Chinese to growing Indian populations. And so, we said it's basically sometimes a disconnect between interactions within communities. Right? So it's people who are coming to a city or town not understanding either what local government is,
Right.
what services they provide, how to access those services. There might be language barriers, right? There might be cultural misunderstandings. And so it's providing a space out of the mayor's office so that that person can interact with these various community and cultural groups in order to provide those avenues to make sure that access is being created.
Okay, all right. So this person has not been appointed yet, will be appointed by the mayor. He told me by September.
Okay,
He's
all
hoping. That'll be the kind of the clearinghouse person, right?
Yes.
So immigrants can go to this person and say, I'm having trouble getting services from the DPW.
Yeah, I
so
mean, whether it's immigrants or just new residents
Yeah.
in the city, just people who've
Right.
adopted Quincy
Yeah.
as their home, in trying to welcome them more into the city and provide them
Whatever
with
background they're from.
on
Okay.
how the city provides services
Okay,
to people.
all right.
And I think the ward councilors do that in a certain way.
Sure.
Of course, all the city councilors do that in their own certain way. The Department of Constituent Services out of the mayor's office does that in their own way. From Nicole Rabucci to Tom Fabrizio to Betty Yao, right? And I think it's just broadening that mandate a little bit.
Okay.
So that it is more deep relationship development, and not preventative. I think that's the wrong word, but sort of just relationship development in a capacity that, hey, how do people of a certain constituency understand how the city operates,
Okay.
right? And how can we be more helpful to the needs of these constituencies?
did the commission come up with any areas that the city is lacking in?
I think the thing that came up most was language access.
Not surprising.
Yeah, not surprising at all. And I think that that's an easy place to start. And
Yeah.
I think that there already have been places that the city has started in the planning department. Melissa Pond and Nina Liang from the city council have been working diligently in community development department, planning and community development department, to advance, translation services, language access. I know they partnered with Quarry and trained a first class that were just honored at their recent community banquet a couple weeks ago, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And those are great community projects, right? So stuff happens, right? And obviously just sort of connected to whatever took place in the zeitgeist in another place that affected people here. It translated into some positive outcomes, but there are community initiatives, of course, that can also be advanced to address the same issues.
Okay. So are there things the commission found that the city is doing well, that has been doing well for these folks?
Yeah, I think there's certain language access and translation services that are already provided between the police and the fire. I think there could be more.
Okay.
And there's sort of, we identified that there's probably some cultural awareness that could be improved.
Okay.
Right? I think just generally when you have different groups of people who are serving in city government and they're working to serve different cultural groups in the city that just might not understand from where each other is coming from, right? There could be some greater opportunities to provide more understanding, about cultural backgrounds and whatnot. But I think we could do better in that.
Did the commission talk at all about the city's hiring practices or makeup of the current employees?
Yeah,
whether
certainly.
Or not
Yeah, and
reflects
we
the
looked
community?
into those data. I mean, just trying to understand, and a lot of it comes down to civil service testing.
Yes.
And unions. And so in the civil service testing, there's just a particular population of people that are going to take the civil service, and there's only a particular group of people that are actually taking the civil service and applying for these roles.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a crowding out, but it might be more of a lack of awareness that is a career path, right? Particular roles are career paths. And so that came up too, was, providing education, awareness, access to, through the school system, right? Of, hey, these are potential pathways for careers that you could be a part of, if so.
Which the school system actually just hired their own
Yes.
DEI commissioner. Yeah.
And I don't know too much about that situation, but I know that was sort of driven by the community as
Right.
well. People were looking for that role to be filled, but we haven't had any interaction there. But we
Right.
knew that was something that was coming. So.
Okay. Now, does this commission that you chaired still exist, Ian? You're still
Yeah,
meeting?
it still exists.
It
I
does?
know the group, we enjoyed working together.
Yeah.
It was fun.
There were 9 of you, I think. Is that
Yeah,
right?
there were 9, and then it ended up being 8 of us. But
Okay.
people from all walks of life, and I just want to name them because
Please,
they're just
yeah.
awesome people. Philip Chong from Quarry, Ferris Gray, who is a Native American, strong involvement in the community. Jeanette Kutash, who's actually a Ward 3 resident. She comes from the disabled community. Tony Patel, he's Indian background, just opened a restaurant down in Wollaston Square. He also has a convenience store over at Five Corners by North Quincy High School. Dave Murphy, Commissioner of Department of Natural Resources. Lola Tom lives in Quincy. She's also a Ward 3 resident, and she works for Hamill and Leiden Funeral Home. And then Mercy Umoran, also another Ward 3 resident. But great people. We developed a wonderful working relationship. It took time to do so, very representative of perspectives and experiences and cultural backgrounds. And so, we're looking for more opportunities to stay connected and involved with the community so that we can kind of be another conduit to making sure that people are receiving the services that they deserve, and are entitled to in the city. As you saw, one of the initiatives that we put forward was in recognizing the Lunar New Year throughout the city. There were banners that were displayed all throughout. It was a simple suggestion.
Oh.
Lola said, hey, why don't we need to bring more awareness to the holidays that people who are residents of the city observe and celebrate.
Sure.
And so that was just an easy one. We went to the mayor and to his staff, and we said, can we, let's blow this up a little bit more, And I think in subsequent years we hope to have, fireworks, and we make it a bigger celebration for a larger group of people to enjoy.
All right. Okay. Well, August Moon is coming up,
August Moon is
in the
coming
not too
up.
distant future.
Yeah.
We just had Porch Fest, and I know we talked about this earlier,
Yeah.
that it's a community event. It represents diversity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you bring up 2 great things. So one, August Moon, and there was just a Quarry community banquet. One thing that we talked about extensively was celebrating the great events and cultural events and institutions that we have in the city that make this city so great, right? So Quarry does a great job. They're going to do the August Moon Festival. Porch Fest, another community-driven event, right? Gets people out of their homes, into each other's lives. They have a great day. There's music, bonding. It's a wonderful day, right? Flag Day. This Flag Day this year was one of the most powerful that I had attended. Or
Really?
maybe, it just was very impactful to me this year. It reminded me of the importance of the history of our country and the importance of America as an institution, and that the beginnings of America started right here in Quincy, right? Just connecting all that together, and the fact that it's a tradition,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
is such a tradition that is celebrated by all of the members of the city, and you could see and you're sitting there, right? You're sitting there watching all the kids and the
Yep.
older people walking through the crowds of the
Oh.
parade, and people from all walks of life waving that flag
It was
together.
definitely a microcosm of the country, right there on Marymount
It
Parkway.
was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
There's no question.
So there are great things that go on here, and we don't. It's tough when bad things happen or there's bad actors that make people feel bad.
Yeah.
But we need to overcome those things by the strong community that we have and the strong initiatives and the people who make those things possible to bring us together.
Well, all these things you're talking about naturally bring people together because they surround a common theme, right? Music,
Yeah.
food,
Yeah. Absolutely.
celebrating
Yeah.
the country's independence. And just by forcing folks together into that melting pot.
And it's not
well,
even
hey,
forcing;
you know,
it's providing an avenue.
Yeah.
Right. It's opt-in. You don't have to participate,
Right.
but I think you're better off for it.
Yeah. So do you think maybe more of those informal type things rather than a governmental structured bureaucratic type of department?
I would always say yes.
Okay.
Right, because there's always opportunity for people to create these things on their own, right? And even throughout the summer, you're going to see more things, even small. The chamber doing the Kilroy Square,
Yes.
and we have the fruit. What is it called? The farmers market every week. That's
Yes.
another community-driven event. You've got Saturdays in the Park coming up in Safford
Right,
Park. More
right.
opportunities, music and beer,
Yeah.
whatever. Get people together, come out. There are always people. How's Neck? Like the Chowder Festival.
Sure.
That's tradition, right? Great events like those that bring people together.
Yeah.
And I would always think that there are better opportunities for community-driven collaboration and cohesion than there are for government-mandated, departments, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, hey, when bad things happen or when people commit crimes, there's a police department, right, that can respond to those, right? And if they're so egregious, then there's also community-driven sort of perspectives
Yeah.
and ways that we can overcome these things.
Yeah. Did the commission talk at all about diversity within public safety, within the police department? I know that was a big issue that came up
Yeah.
specifically related to this.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, we talked about it.
Okay.
We recognize that there is most often and most likely a lack of diversity, and I think that some of those things that I alluded to before about particular, getting access or awareness to different groups of people, that they can know that there is a place for them here.
Right.
And I think that's I don't know how civil service is typically promoted generally, but I mean there generally is, but I just think that is cultural in itself.
Yeah.
It's not a barrier. It's just a cultural awareness, I think, of particular occupations.
Yeah. I think, when the department was first proposed, the thought was that if somebody experienced racism or prejudice or some other, negative aspect, that would be the department that person could go to get resolution, to get justice.
Well, what would the resolution be?
Right.
It's not an adjudicatory,
No, it would be a
judicial
position
body.
appointed by the mayor.
Yeah, it would be a position appointed by the mayor.
Right.
Again, and if there's a difference between, if there's a crime committed, that's criminal.
There's laws already.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
There are laws already. I don't know how that department would have handled such things, and
Right.
I just don't think it would have done it successfully. And I think it's a tough situation, right? And you can't take away the experiences that people have had, along the lines of prejudice or racism. But I just don't think you can institutionalize this sort of adjudication of that.
Are there other types of DEI officers, if you will, in other communities similar to Quincy? Do you know?
So, on the model that we use with this community liaison, I mean, there are particular sort of cultural groups.
Yeah.
Like in Boston, there's a Chinatown liaison.
Oh, all
and
right.
so we looked at that, and I think the other one we looked at was in Medford or Melrose. That
Okay.
was sort of a community multicultural
Yep.
liaison.
Yep.
But they're more definitely directed towards specific ethnic groups.
Okay. So this will be more of just Quincy people, right?
Quincy people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right. Anything else we should let folks know about right now, Ian?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the work that we did. We, obviously, it was a task to try to understand what's going on in the city. We'll continue to do so. We
Okay.
encourage people to stay in touch with us through the commission. In fact, at the community banquet at Quarry, I had a chance to catch up with some folks about other issues, and we're gonna, share those things that we hear
Okay.
with the mayor. We're still serving. At the pleasure of the mayor,
Right.
this organization. So we look forward to continuing to provide avenues to access and service.
Great. Well, I appreciate you coming in today to tell us about it. Really do. We've been putting your email and phone number up for folks who want to reach out to you.
Great. I
And,
appreciate it.
Yep. Have a very safe, happy summer.
Thanks, Jeff. You too.
You're welcome. Just enough time to check the forecast for you. It looks very summery, actually, for most of the week. For today, where it's a little unsettled with some showers and storms, but that will blow out all this humidity and lead to just a great day tomorrow. Lots of sunshine. Temperatures are around 80 degrees. Nice on Wednesday, starting to heat up again on Thursday, and hot and humid here on Friday. Thanks again to Ward 3 Councilor Ian Kane for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you to our crew. Thank you for watching. Speaking of Friday, here on the show, Margaret LaForest will be here to talk to us about some events on board the USS Salem. Don't forget our website too, qatv.org. All our latest programs are there, news and information, video on demand, and a whole lot more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.